Summer Thorr is an incredible duo unit, and this video is going to be a review and builds guide for her. So this time Thorr is a blue flying mage, and she's got Divine Whimsy as her preferred weapon. This incredible weapon gives her -1 special cooldown and can also inflict exposure and stalled status on foes with the lowest speed stat and any foes within 2 spaces of them. So the stall effect is extremely good for the units who have any kind of movement increasing skill like Legendary Sigurd, Yuri, Brave Alm, any of those units, and exposure is basically going to be letting you deal +10 true damage. I know the description of exposure does sound a bit convoluted, but it's actually really simple. You pretty much just get +10 true damage, and she can make use of that with her AoE special as well. And then she can also get special cooldown -1 to herself if she's within 2 spaces of any kind of ally, and this can allow her to pre-charge her own AoE special. And finally, this weapon also has the Spendthrift effect built into it, so she can get +6 attack in combat and inflict -6 attack on foe during the combat. So this weapon is really good, not only for the power but also for the support. Exposure is amazing for a lot of allies, for Duo Thorr herself, and you can make use of this with your Vantage units, with your Brave Weapon users, for giving a bit of extra oomph to your Gale Force allies. But keep in mind that even though this is true damage, it is still going to be reduced by any kind of damage reduction skill. Stall effect is going to be really helpful in many of the game modes, as you'll see with the footage, and it can also really disrupt a lot of teams that are not preparing for Thorr, especially in Summoner duels. So this weapon allows her to be a really solid nuke and also a great support unit. She also has Still Water in her slot A, which is the perfect skill to scale up her AoE damage, because AoE specials do use the visible attack stat, and this can also increase her resistance, which is really great for making use of the sabotage skills, as you'll see later on with the builds. She does have the Fortress skill, which is really good for the mobility, and then she has the Worldbreaker skill, just like her original version. So Worldbreaker can make a lot of difference in support for many of the teams in many of the game modes, like in Aether Raids offense for example, and obviously it is going to be amazing in Summoner duels as well. Having this kind of support while also being such a strong unit offensively makes Thorr into a really versatile unit. And if that was not enough, then her duo skill brings even more insane stuff to the table. So she can inflict gravity effect on the foes in the cardinal direction, and she can also neutralize any kind of active bonus on foes within 5 rows or 5 columns centered on her. And this is a pretty huge range. This pretty much means that you can erase any kind of positive status effect of the enemy, which includes the Duo Pathfinder skill of Duo Dagger and her Duo skill. This also means null follow-up status effect that units like Young Mia and Legendary Xander can get. So this makes for a really incredible support, because you can get rid of the visible buffs of the opponents, and if they're going to be stacking up a lot of bonus doubler, then those bonus doublers don't really mean anything. And you can also get rid of the Pathfinder of Duo Dagger in Summoner duels. So this duo button is going to be seeing the most usage in that game mode, because in Aether Raids offense it's a bit hard to use, but still in Aether Raids offense this duo button can be useful in my experience, because if you just kill enemies' duo units or get rid of their hindrance, then you can pretty much gravity the last remaining enemy to make them move for 1 space, and then that can allow you to get to the pots. So this duo skill is really good, and just like any other duo skill, she can have the dual effect built into it, so she can score as a 195 BST unit in arena game modes. Duo Thorr has got an amazing attack at base 43, which is really strong for a mage like this, especially an AoE nuke, and she also has good resistance, which means that compared to another flying nuke known as Spring Sonia, she can actually provide even more support by running a sabotage skill. And of course, she has so much support built into this kit with her duo skill with the Worldbreaker, and of course her weapon providing that easy stall effect and the exposure effect. Duo Thorr might be a strong nuke, but she's not really that frail honestly. At higher merges she can be really tanky, which can be really useful for even tanking some of the threats in the enemy phase, which is quite rare for a nuke like this, especially an AoE nuke. I've been using Summer Thorr for pretty much a month now in all of the different game modes, and I can definitely say that she is easily one of the best units in the game right now, especially in game modes like Aether Raids Offense and Summoner Duels. In Summoner Duels, she's just insane because she provides a way of countering the Pathfinder duo skill of Duo Dagger, which was not really easily possible before, and she can also be a real annoyance to any kind of Legendary Seeker teams in Summoner Duels, and also, teams that have Yuri. Of course, they can avoid this effect on Yuri a lot easily because the exposure install is affected on the lowest speed enemies. So Yuri is going to be faster than most of their units, so he can try and avoid, especially if the opponent plays smart. She can also be used in Aether Raids defense and also in Aether Raids offense. She is definitely pretty useful in Aether Raids offense in the light season and in the chaos season, because in the light season you can not only use the Astra version Thorr, and Worldbreaker is really amazing for a lot of offensive teams because it allows you to free up the Heavy Blade and Flashing Blade Sacred Seals or slotty skills from your Gale Force units, which means that it pretty much gives you an opportunity to stack up even more attack and offenses on that unit, which further gives you a better chance against many of the whale teams where any kind of extra firepower is going to be really useful. And of course, she does give you exposure as well as one of her supports, so even more firepower. So those are going to be her main competitive use case, but even for casual players who are just trying to have fun, Thorr is really fun because it is not going to be fun for your enemy when you just take away their visible statuses or just inflict them with stall and exposure. If you want to build up Thorr, then her base kit is already quite fine. You can try and run Life and Death or Fury as her Sacred Seal because keep in mind that the AoE specials do use the visible attack stat, so these two Sacred Seals are pretty good for that. And you can just run Reposition as a resist, and not much has to be changed. You can definitely change Blazing Thunder to Blazing Wind because it's generally considered to be a better AoE special, but still it depends on the map. Sometimes Blazing Thunder or Blazing Flame can be really good as well. You can also try and run her with Hardy Bearing because she has the AoE specials, which means that if you don't really run Hardy Bearing, then the Vantage units can just use the AoE damage to fall into the Vantage range. So Hardy Bearing is always going to be a good Secret Seal on any kind of AoE nuke. And in Summoner Duels, she is going to be a very meta unit, and I think this is a pretty standard build for her in my opinion. And you basically run Fury and Sabotage Attack. Sabotage Attack is easily available in the Grail pool, so that is good. And you can just run her with Duochrome. So what you do is basically 2 Change Fader on the first turn, and then by the second turn she will have her AoE special pre-charged, which is really good because a lot of the Summoner Duels games do go off on turn 2. So having Sabotage Attack in my opinion is a lot better than the Fortress skill, because nowadays if you're going to be playing Summoner Duels in the higher rankings, then most good teams are going to be having Counter Control. So that kind of makes your Fortress skill a lot less valuable, and with Sabotage Attack she can provide another bit of support, which like I said, someone like Spring Sonia cannot really provide. Absolutely insane unit in Summoner Duels honestly. And if you want to use her in Aether Raids offense, which I've been using her a lot and you've definitely seen the footage by now, so you can just run her as a Wings of Mercy unit, so she can just jump in, and Iceberg is going to be a good special to have because you can pre-charge this in 2 turns. And the reason why sometimes AoE specials might not be the best thing for Aether Raids offense is because if you drop every foe's HP to 1, then if your Gale Force units needs 2 hits to trigger their Gale Force, they're just going to be missing out on their Gale Force. So that's why Iceberg can work out in that aspect, and anyone who can teleport after her can take advantage of Worldbreaker. But if you want to use her as an initiator, then she can just be used with a double Fury build. So in 2 combat, she can fall into the Wings of Mercy range, and that is really helpful just so that your allies can teleport. But keep in mind that she's not going to be as good of an initiator as the regular Thorr in the Astra season, because she does not really have Gale Force on herself, and she doesn't really have a duo button which can give her another action like Ninja Lin or Ninja Korin, because more actions means that you just have more flexibility of killing the opponents and then trapping them or maybe getting the pots, so definitely helps quite a lot. And the main problem with Duo Thorr is that she's a ranged unit, which means that a lot of the Aether Raids defense teams are going to be having the far save tanks, and especially in the light season they are going to be enjoying the mythic buffs, which means that they're going to be a lot more bulky. So at times it can be hard for Duo Thorr to just kill them with her AoE special, And with running this kind of Summer Thorr, you also need to make sure that you can run some kind of one-tap Gale Force units, which can trigger their Gale Force in a single hit. Because with her AoE special, she can drop the HP of the opponents to 1, so you can just go in, tap once, and get the Gale Force. And if you want to have a more reliable Gale Force, then I do like using her with Winter Vendetta. That's personally how I've been using her, because with the Double Fury build, you can definitely work it out, but it's much better to just start off being in the Wings of Mercy range and not really care about being danced, especially with the Double Fury build. So yeah, I definitely prefer this a lot more, and this is the build I am running at the moment. And in Aether Raids defense, she's also really good, especially in the Dark Season with Brattle Catria teams, because she can just get the Brave effect out of that, and it means that after one turn, she can just trigger her Iceberg anyways, even against opponents who have guard effect. I do like using Iceberg a lot more in Aether Raids defense than the AoE special, because a lot of these smart opponents are going to be making it so that they can avoid the AoE damage on their far safe tank. So in that case, she can miss out on the kill, and that's why I do like Iceberg quite a lot there. I've been using her there as well, and she's been a very powerful unit. The exposure support is really good for a Brattle Catria team, because the units are going to be having the triangle attack effect, so they can get the brave hits and get even more damage output because of exposure, and that is always helpful, especially now that we have some insane save tanks and save tank supports. Exposure on the enemies is a status effect, which means that any kind of skills which want a penalty on the opponent can be activated because of the exposure skill. And because exposure targets the enemies with the lowest speed, a lot of the tanks are going to be getting hit by this, which means that more damage for your team. And of course, Worldbreaker is always amazing for the special acceleration in both phases. You can also use her in Arena at max investment. She's not going to be scoring as much as Duo Chrom or Duo Dagger, but still, she's a really solid arena unit who can provide more support to your teams and allow your units to retaliate back with Ruptured Skies because of Worldbreaker. She can run Ruptured Sky because it is a high scoring special. And then finally, if you want to have a more unique build with her, then you can try and have Close Reversal. I've definitely faced a couple of Thors in Arena in tier 21 with this kind of build. And like I said at the start, she can be really bulky unlike any other AoE nuke, especially at this kind of max investment. Make sure to share this video with your friends if they're trying to build up Summer Thorr or are thinking of pulling her, because I showed a lot of gameplay footage, a lot of builds, and a lot of options, and I've used her for a month and I've enjoyed using her quite a lot. And if you enjoyed this video as well, then make sure to leave a like and a comment also tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Legendary Sigurd after seeing Thorr with yet another stall effect. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.